Hi, everyone. Welcome to a KE Report webinar featuring Labrador Gold. My name is Corey Fleck. This webinar is produced in conjunction with Focus Communications. On the line with me, I have Roger Moss. Roger is the president and CEO of Labrador Gold. We will be diving into recent project acquisition, the Mariposa project in the White Gold District in the Yukon. Labrador Gold is traded on the TSX Venture Exchange under the symbol LAB, on the OTCQX under the symbol NKOSF, and the Frankfurt Exchange 2N6. Now, this is a live forum, so everybody tuning in, thank you for tuning in. You will have the ability to ask questions. I direct you to the chat feature or the Q&A feature within this webinar platform. I'll be monitoring all those questions and working them in as Roger works through this more update or overview of the Mariposa project, and I hope gets into what sort of plans Labrador Gold now has for this asset. Roger, thanks for taking some time with us. I know we were waiting for this deal to really close, go through the regulators. Now we are here to dive into what sounds like is going to be a major focus for Labrador Gold. So, Roger, take it away. Talk us through this Mariposa project, please.
Okay, thanks, Corey. It's good to be back again, talking to you and your listeners. It's exciting to start talking about Mariposa. As you mentioned, we've just recently closed the acquisition, and it's something that we were working on for a little while, and we think that it's going to be a very good asset for Labrador Gold going forward. So let's see what we got here. Typical disclaimer, I will be using forward-looking statements, and so just be aware of that. And, I think most of your listeners are probably familiar with what's going on in the Yukon. There's a lot of activity up there now, and there has been for the past few years, and some pretty amazing discoveries being made. So a lot of activity up there. Our Mariposa and Eureka Dome projects, they're located in the White Gold District, as you mentioned, and that has made two major gold deposits, one with white gold and one Fuerte Metals, who recently changed their name. But both of those deposits are in the White Gold District. They're on the order of 2 to 3, 4 million ounce deposits, and so there is some good gold mineralization nearby. What we're looking at Mariposa especially, and I will focus mostly on Mariposa, which will be the property that we're doing most of our exploration on this year. Eureka Dome, we will be doing a little bit of work on, but Mariposa is much more data rich. We know a lot more about Mariposa, and we've been going through that data, which stretches back to the early 2000s, with a few bumps in terms of amount of work done in different years, but we'll get into that in a little bit. One of the things that really attracted us, in addition to this data set that we inherited, is the geology and the mineralization at Mariposa looks very similar to what we know about white gold and the coffee deposit. So we're kind of excited about that. We think that there's been some good work done. We think that there's a lot more to be found at Mariposa. And as I mentioned here, hasn't been a huge amount of drilling. We're looking at under 9,000 meters of drilling, mostly done over 2 to 3 years, between 2011 and 2015. And so we do have that to build on, but I think anybody that's familiar with these type of gold deposits, and they are orogenic style of gold deposits, we will realize that 8 to 9,000 meters of drilling is not really enough to do it justice.
Roger, one more quick question regarding, look, you have the coffee deposit outline. You have the Golden Saddle deposit, 44 kilometers, 50 kilometers away. Any other work that's going on closer to these two projects, either one of them?
Yeah, there is some work going on, exploration, early stage exploration nearby. We have, I know White Gold is working on our southern boundary on a copper project that they have that they're planning to spin out. There's a drill program going on just very, very close to us at the moment. I forget the company's name, but yeah, it's an active area and things are happening. But I think the coffee and Golden Saddle are the most significant gold deposits. There's also Casino, which is a little bit further south, which of course is it's a major copper gold deposit as well.
Okay, thank you, Roger.
And I think that just goes to the jurisdiction of the Yukon. As I mentioned, over the last probably 4 or 5 years, really since the discovery made by Snowline, which I think was in 2001, 2021, exploration has really taken off in the Yukon, and a lot of companies are working there. One of the other things that Mariposa specifically, placid gold mining. It's big in the Yukon, as your listeners are probably aware. And the Scroggy Creek, which runs through the Mariposa project, has had a lot of placid gold produced over the last 40 to 50 years, and they're still producing today. So that's encouraging, because generally where you have that placid gold, it's usually coming from a hard rock source. Hopefully in this case it'll be nearby. Just a quick outline of our share structure. Right now we have about 170 million shares out, just over 8 million in options, so 178 fully diluted. So our market cap right now is just under 12 million, and we have cash and securities of just under 15 million as of our last financial statements on March 31st. Insider ownership, Eric Sprott remains our largest shareholder at 10.7%, and management has 3%. Crescat Capital is still involved with us at 8.2%. So some good shareholders there, and we're very happy with the way things are going.
So just to answer a question that came in, cash position, you had it outlined there at March 31st, just under 15 million. Just reiterate that, Roger. You have more cash and marketable securities than your overall market cap.
Yeah, it's been like that for a while, and some people do have purchased shares because of that. And I think we're very frugal with our budgeting and with our spend. So our burn rate is pretty low, and we try as much as possible to put our money into the ground. And when we see a good project like this, this is the kind of thing where we're really interested in spending some money on and making discovery.
Okay, well, let's get into the work that you're going to do here to drive some more value.
Okay, this is just the access. There's no real road access to Mariposa. We're located 120 kilometers south of Dawson City. There is an airstrip on the project, so we can land light aircraft. There's also a ATV access during the summer. There's a winter road, but generally exploration in the summer is helicopter supported, even though we can get around the project internally by on some placer mining roads along Scroggy and Mariposa Creek. There is Fuerte Metals, or actually Tullamore Mining now, are in the process of putting together a road from Dawson City down to the Coffee Project, and that will actually pass closer to Mariposa, about 15 kilometers to the west. So when that's up and running, we may be able to have slightly better access.
Roger, how long is the season? Question just came in on that. Well, what does it look like when you can actually get work done?
Well, it depends on the snow cover, of course, and we just I think the snow cover is gone now. It's probably gone since early June, and probably we're looking at sort of late November to be wrapping up. Now, I believe that if you have a camp set up and you can and everything's good on the project, you could probably drill through the winter, but that's not our intention this year. So this slide is interesting because, I mentioned a few things that we liked about the project, and this one is sort of really caught our interest, and that's because the gold mineralization that we see at Mariposa is very similar to the gold mineralized elsewhere in the district. And one of the things that struck us immediately was the same age, basically, of the Mariposa mineralization to the Golden Saddle mineralization at White Gold's project, which suggests that there was a large gold mineralizing event at about 155 million years ago that Mariposa was a part of. And so that's pretty cool. We see a lot of the similar structures, easterly, northeasterly fault systems, and the mineralized zones tend to follow those faults, as we'll see later. Same association with quartz vein stockworks, breccia zones, and often with pyrite and occasionally visible gold. And the same type of host rock. It's a metamorphosed intrusive rock. Felsic orthonite is what it's called on the project. And that's similar to what we see elsewhere. Same kind of alteration assemblage and same kind of pathfinders that we see elsewhere in the district. So there's a lot here that the project has going for it in terms of like what we know of elsewhere in the White Gold District. This is just a slide about placer mining again, and I don't know if you can see here, but this area, these are actually the placer mining claims. This would be Scroggy and Mariposa Creek. This one here is Mariposa, the little one off over there. And as I mentioned, this is still ongoing at the moment. And I think, last year there was over 1,000 ounces of gold recovered from Scroggy Creek, and 73,000 ounces recovered over the last 40 odd years from the creek. And you can see on here as well, the red dots are essentially gold in soils, and bigger dots are a larger amount of gold. And you can see the clusters that we have, especially in this area. I don't want that. Especially in the area at Skookum West and Skookum Main. And so that's kind of interesting when you think about, could that mineralization there be supplying what we see in the streams in terms of the placer gold. And again, Mariposa Creek, which is right. Let's turn this back on again. This one here has some really pristine gold nuggets that's been found there. The bedrock source hasn't been found, but as you can see, there are really good gold in soil anomalies around that creek as well.
So are these kind of the general targets you're working off right now? I'm seeing, now there's even more here. What, there's five, at least 5 targets, if not this one showing, 7 or 8?
8, yeah. We got, so these are all targets that have been generated by soil sampling. And soil sampling works great in the Yukon. It's mostly unglaciated. And I'm sure some of your listeners will remember Sean Ryan's use of soil sampling, finding initially the white gold deposits, and then also the coffee deposit way back. And so it's been used pretty frequently in the Yukon, and it seems to be working really well here. There's a lot of information on this slide. It's kind of a little difficult to go through, but the main ones that I've seen most of the work are. Oh, how do I get rid of that?
Let me clear that. I can clear that all for you there, Roger.
Oh, perfect. Thank you.
Let me work on that. Oh, how do we get it off? 1 second.
Yeah, it's gone.
Yeah, just take it off. There you go.
Oh, no. There you go. I got it back on.
Hold on.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. I'm removing it all for you. There you go.
No, it's still on there.
Yeah, usually it comes off easier than that.
Okay, never mind. So anyway, the two areas that have been the focus of most of the work, Skookum Main and Skookum West, you can see that they are situated along a structural corridor right next to the Skookum Gym Fault and to the Cabin Creek Fault further to the north. And these two occurrences tend to occur where you have cross faults that are coming across those main northeasterly trending faults. And as you may know, these are ideal situations for where you have space available for gold-bearing fluids to drop the gold out. So it's not really surprising that we have these occurrences where they are, and that's where Pacific Ridge spent most of their time doing their drilling and trenching, and they had some spectacular numbers, which you can see on here. Like one of the better ones, just 1.5 grams a ton over 81 meters, and which is really significant at Skookum Main. That was actually their first hole. It's funny how that happens sometimes. And then they had a bunch of others, lower grade and not quite as long as 81 meters, but definitely showing some good signs of significant gold mineralization. So we were very impressed with that. What we see elsewhere on the property, not as much work has been done. There have been a few holes poked in Maisie May, 1 or 2 in Big Alex, some trenching done at Hackley. So there's not a whole lot done outside of that Skookum West and Skookum Main. And certainly when you go down to the southern and eastern portion of the property, Alberta Creek in the east and Lou Linear down in the south, there's very, very little being done. So that's some of the areas that we're going to focus on this year, and we'll get to that in a little bit. The geochemistry, the soil geochemistry that we're looking at, and the rock geochemistry suggests 2 possible mineralizing events. The gold mineralization, which is what we're mostly interested in, seems to be a later event, which is preceded by a copper, silver, lead, zinc, so more of a massive sulfide or base metal event that preceded the gold event.
So Roger, just a little clarification. It looks like there has been some drilling here. When did that stop? Why wasn't it continued when you see some of these at least high grade results, even some of these results with some longer widths to them?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the drilling was done by Pacific Ridge starting in 2011. They did 2 rounds of diamond drilling, one in 2011, one in 2012, and they went back in 2015 and did some RAB drilling. So rotary air blast drilling was kind of like percussion drilling. I think to answer that question, there are two parts to it, I think, to the answer. One is that there was at that time, in the early 2010s, there was a lot of exploration going on in the Yukon, and including in the White Gold District. But that kind of fell off towards the middle, sort of the 2015-ish, and there wasn't much done generally in the White Gold District, and I don't think there was much done in the Yukon at that stage either, between say 2015 and post-COVID, as I mentioned earlier, when Snowline made the discovery and people started pay more attention to it. So I think that's one of the reasons that maybe there was not enough funding. There was just there was not enough I don't know what I would say, enough joy with exploration up in the Yukon at that point. But for one reason or another, it fell off, not just here with Pacific Ridge, but generally. The other thing, so the second part of the answer is that Pacific Ridge during that time had started looking at porphyry copper exploration in BC, and so they had sort of started to make the switch to looking for copper and gold in porphyries in BC, and which they continue to do today. And so they continued work on Mariposa and Eureka Dome to keep them in good standing, but they didn't really do any substantive work after that 2015 drilling program. So it's good news for us, because what we see here is a sort of semi-forgotten, unloved project that still has a lot of potential. And so that's something that we were very happy about, that it hadn't been progressed for the last 10 years or more.
Okay, thanks, Roger.
And this is just some more of the drilling and trenching that was done. Trenching has been done sporadically since about 2010, I think, and good results. Again, like some low grade gold, but over like 150 meters of 0.45. I mean, that's anomalous gold over a very long distance. And then you have better grades, like I had 1.4 over 40 meters, and 10 meters of 0.9, 45, 0.49. So there's a lot of anomalous gold and some higher grade gold that we see in the trenches, and Skookum Main and Skookum West. And there's one there at Hackley Brecher as well, which is one of the other occurrences that hadn't seen any drilling, but certainly that 45 meters of 0.49 gold is significant, and it's something that we'll be looking at in the future. And then, of course, the drilling, we discussed that a little bit. There was some really good long intervals of decent grades, and you can see there on the right a 3D model of the gold mineralization at Skookum Main. So we're looking towards the northeast here. You can see it dipping down to the southeast, and the red volumes are 0.5 grams a ton grade shells, and you can see that that's sort of how things are looking at Skookum Main. What we understand, and this is kind of interesting, is that some of the drilling that was done here was not optimal in terms of direction, and so we are looking at that to try and determine how best we can target the structures that we believe are hosting the gold mineralization. And I think there's been enough work done that we can probably work it out, so that when we do get to drilling, we'll be able to target this mineralization really well. And I think just given the amount of anomalous gold that there is along this trend that we call it's called the Skookum Jim trend. It includes Skookum Main and Skookum West, I think that there's a really good potential for finding more gold here. And it reminds me of the work that we did in Newfoundland at Kingsway, where we were drilling the same type orogenic gold deposit or system along the Appleton Fault Zone. So this is the Skookum Jim Fault Zone. It's very similar. We've done this before over in Newfoundland successfully, and I think we're going to be able to do something good here over the next year or so. Okay, so based on what we know and what we've managed to put together from all of the data that we have, there are a number of targets on the project outside of the known occurrences, which speak for themselves really. Intersecting magnetic lineaments. So the magnetic lineaments typically they're following faults, and we know that intersecting faults are excellent places to drop out gold from the hydrothermal fluids. So those are good targets, and we see a few of them down in the south, which has really been, as I mentioned earlier, a part of the property that's been largely ignored. Those are the yellow ellipses down in the south of the property there. There are soil anomalies that are still open and need more work. And the orange ellipse over there at Alberta Creek in the east is the main one there. We plan to put a grid across that. And then there are others that haven't been fully closed off, like Maisie May and Big Alex up in the northwest. So these are the targets that we're looking at this year, and which we want to get up to scratch and basically fill them out, test new areas, and see and get the big picture for the entire property. It's exactly the same thing that we did at Kingsway. When we picked up Kingsway, we went in and we did a systematic program of soil sampling geophysics, and that led to the discovery of the gold in the second year of work out there. And I think this will be we'll be using the same playbook here. So this is it, the program for this year. As I mentioned, the soil sampling is a big part of it. This purple area here is the one around Alberta Creek. This is going to be a grid of soils going from Alberta Creek in the east here, almost across to the Hackley zone over here. Down the green areas are areas of soil sampling that are reconnaissance in nature. We're going to be doing ridge and spur sampling, so we're basically going across the ridges and sampling those, and that's the reconnaissance scale of soil sampling. If we find anything there, we go back and we grid it in more detail, and we do the same thing up here, up in the north and along the western boundary of the property to cover those off. At the same time, we're going to be doing some airborne work, LiDAR. We're covering the property with LiDAR. That will help us with our interpretation of the magnetics and identifying structures that we know are very important for the localization of gold mineralization on the property. And then there's good airborne magnetic coverage over about 60% of the project. We're going to cover the other 40%, which is the area shown in orangey pink salmon color, down in the south and over by Alberta Ridge in the west. So that's going to be covered with high resolution airborne, which we can merge with the airborne data that we already have, and that'll give us a complete data set over the entire project, and that'll be used for our structural interpretation. One of the things to point out here, I mentioned earlier that that White Gold has a project, a property immediately south of us here. I think it's called the Bridget property. It's one of their critical metals properties that they're planning to spin out of White Gold in the near future, and they've been doing a lot of work down there looking for porphyry style copper mineralization. So as part of our work down in the south, and obviously the soil sampling, we'll be looking at the copper and moly as well as the gold in those samples to see if there's any potential there for the porphyry style mineralization as well as the orogenic gold. So I think that's it from me. Yeah.
All right, Roger here. I'll fire back up my camera. Thank you, everyone, for sending in those questions. I have a list of them here. Roger, first, can you just give us a recap and overview of the transaction, the option agreement?
Yeah. It's kind of a standard option agreement. We have so it's based on cash, 100,000 on closing, and then 100,000 over the next 4 years. Then there are shares as well. The shares total about 5.4 million over 4 years, and then the spending is kind of ramps up each year, starting at 150,000 this year. We will be spending more than that. Our budget is about 750,000 for this year, and then it ramps up to 1.5 million, 1.75 million, and 2 million, I think, in the fourth year. So typical kind of option agreement.
Okay, that budget actually answered a couple other questions as well. Big picture question then. The main goals, would you say it's expanding on some of the past drilling and mineralization, or is it to develop these new targets? Let's just say over the first part of the year.
Well, so this year, our focus is going to be on developing new targets, as well as expanding on some of them that haven't been that we don't believe have been adequately tested. So it's going to be more of a how can you say, it's not reconnaissance, but we're going to be collecting more data. So we have the data covering the entire project. So then when we sit down to decide where we want to focus, we're not automatically going to be focusing in on, say, the Skookum Main, which right now looks like the best part, but that's because it's had the most work on it. So yeah, we want to expand the soil sampling, get the geophysics done, get the LiDAR done, and that will enable us to look at the entire property package as a whole. And by the end of the year, we should be able to do that, and that will then give us the best targets that we will plan to drill next year.
Okay, that's the follow-up. So by next year's drill program time frame, when you can get out there due to the seasonality of it, you think you should be drilling by next year on this asset?
Yeah, absolutely. That's the goal. We would probably have been drilling this year if we'd got the option done sooner. But in order to drill, you need a class 3 permit, from what I understand. And basically, the other thing that I realize is that if you don't have a drill lined up in October, you're not going to be drilling the following year. So, and we didn't have a drill lined up last year, so no chance for drilling this year.
Okay. Now, I know it's way too far ahead to maybe even talk about, but when you do get drilling here, do you have a internal goal of how many targets you want, or how much you think you might need to drill on these targets just to get a handle on what you might have?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, it's you know, our orogenic gold deposits need a lot of drilling. So, and I'm kind of, I don't like going in with a 2,000 meter drill program because it's too easy to miss. And if you miss on 2,000 meters, then you can kill a project. So I would probably be pushing for a minimum 10,000 meters. And where that 10,000 meters goes will certainly depend on how things pan out this year. I could see us doing a lot more drilling along Skookum Jim structural trend. But I hope that some of the other occurrences will be able to prove up and get them to the point where they're also really good targets.
Okay. That is all the questions we have from Mariposa. A quick question on that Eureka Dome project also came with this transaction. What's your budget? What are your work plans there? If you could just give us a quick overview.
The budget's not very much there. We're just doing some follow-up soil sampling, and that's not going to take very long. Eureka Dome was sort of an add-on to Mariposa for us, and we said, yeah, okay, we'll take Eureka Dome. We'll have a look at it and see what we think. And so I think there's decent mineralization there. We haven't spent as much time on it as we have at Mariposa, partly because there's not as much information as there is at Mariposa. But it's not going to be a focus for us. We'll do the soil sampling and we'll see what comes of that, and then we'll make a decision at the end of the year.
Okay, so at least a little bit. You will get some boots on the ground there. What about your other asset, Hopedale? I believe that is in Labrador. Any work going on there? Give us a lay of the land in terms of potential catalysts from Hopedale then.
Yeah, no, we haven't planned any work there this year. The licenses are in good standing for at least 2 years. And we really wanted to hit Mariposa pretty hard this year and put our money into really doing the program that I outlined at Mariposa. So I didn't want to split people up between Mariposa and Hopedale this year. Next year we'll rethink it. If things are going well at Mariposa, we could go back to Hopedale, but that'll really depend on how things go this year at Mariposa. The other thing about Hopedale is that we're at the point now where we've got to do some significant work, either trenching or drilling, basically, and so that obviously takes a big budget, and we're trying to be mindful of where we spend money and where we how much money we have.
Yep, fair. Well, you are sitting on some decent cash, but as you said, you're selective in terms of where to spend it. Now, if we take a step back, we understand Mariposa, fine. That seems to be the focus this year. You do have these couple other projects that aren't going to get a whole lot of work. Are you going to make any other future deals? Do you have a criteria for future deals, or is this your portfolio here and now that you're going to be focused on for at least the next year?
Yeah, I think unless something spectacular falls in our lap, we're probably not going to be out looking for property acquisitions. I think we don't want to spread ourselves too thin. If the opportunity comes around, we'll look at it. If it looks good, we may act on it. But I think we're comfortable with what we got right now, and with the budget that we have to explore. But there are, as your listeners will know, we're also doing part in investment on the side. So we are looking at opportunities for investment, and that's been going on for some time. And I think we're close on a few. We did make an investment in Northern Shield last year, And I still think that that's a really, really good project that is going to it's got a really good chance to make a discovery there, a significant discovery in Newfoundland, which is the place, as you know, that I'm really comfortable with. So we're good with that. We have a few more that we need to make. We need to spend $3 million on future investments, according to our agreement with the exchange, and we'll be doing that in the next few months. So stay tuned there.
Okay, thank you. There were a couple of questions on that investment angle and even that Northern Shield investment, but you went through it there. So Roger, that brings us up to speed, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to this webinar. Any follow-up questions, you can email Roger directly. You can also email me. My email address is fleck@kereport.com. I'll follow up with Roger as we get some more news out of Labrador Gold. But in the meantime, Roger, thanks for taking time to explain this new transaction. I wish you the best of luck at this Mariposa project. And everyone, thanks for taking time with us on this webinar. Hope you all have a great rest of your week.
Thanks, Corey. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in.